If it's crazy to call for putting police and armed security in our school to protect our children, then call me crazy.
I'm very tempted
He's
too.
crazy.
Yes. That the reaction of the NRA chief Wayne LaPierre to all the criticism his groups received both since the shootings and then since his suggestion that all U.S. schools have armed guards. In his words, the only thing that can stop a bad guy with a gun is a good guy with a gun. And now the mayor of Marlboro, New Jersey, that's in central Jersey, says that he agrees.
Like what happened on 9/11 when we saw catastrophic events in this country, air travel changed. In my opinion, last Friday, school security changed. And you could sit by and hope that it doesn't happen to you in school, or you could take action.
Now that from a Democrat mayor in our region. Interestingly, the decision to put armed guards in schools is opposed by the Republican governor of the same state.
You don't want to make this an armed camp for kids. I don't think that's a positive example for children.
And there's one piece of anecdotal evidence that sits in the governor's corner, Columbine. The massacre happened at the Colorado High School despite the fact that the school was patrolled by an armed guard. 12 students, as you know, and a teacher, they were killed in that 1999 attack, and 21 students were injured. Okay, let's just do a little bit of the math here, guys. We're talking about 100,000 schools, and you're talking about a price tag somewhere in the neighborhood of $3 billion north here. It could be more, and we know New York City alone, which has some schools with armed guards, but alone it would be $100 million bucks, we think, annually at least, to support the program. Now, what do you find for 100,000 schools, all these qualified guards? Who decides? I think also another fair question is, why do you stop at schools? Do you put, armed guards at nursing homes? Do you put armed guards churches? Do you put, I don't know the answer.
Why not put a gun behind glass and say, in case of armed incursion, break glass? I mean, it gets a little excessive.
But this isn't a hypothetical. And Dama, I guess I'll ask is that in the city right now, a lot of PS fill in the blank, they have armed guards right now. And well before Newtown was a city that most Americans had ever even heard of. So it's not like this is, he might be crazy, LaPierre, but it's not like it's a crazy idea. There is precedent for this. What do you think?
Well, to my knowledge, they don't have armed guards. They have police officers, community police officers, and school officers that, with metal detectors, patrol some of the schools. It is necessary, frankly, because of the behavior of the kids. I emphasize, because of the kids attacking possibly one or another. I don't even understand why we or anybody else is having this debate. This nut is trying, the NRA president, is trying to get the discussion off of anything except for his organization. And I fall back to your point, because once the schools are totally safe, the next nut that's planning a massacre is going to go to the shopping mall. If they know the police are in the schools, they're going to go to the next public area where there are no police officers. It doesn't stop. This debate is one that's not even real. You can't even start this. I mean, how does it get off the ground? How?
Well, some schools have it right now. And the way it works is, and I had this conversation with the school safety person on the week prior, dirty little secret is schools that have higher property tax bases, they'll pass around the hat. They'll find the way to have enough money that somebody can have an armed guard patrolling the school. The poor school districts, they can't find said funds.
It doesn't work. Put aside the rest of it. It simply didn't work at Columbine. It won't work elsewhere. If you're dealing with people who are obviously suicidal, both in Columbine and in Newtown, they took their own lives in Rochester the other day, then the fear of death is not going to stop them. The problem here goes back to what the president's trying to do. We just have to have a conversation about this in which everybody's held to some legitimate, rational standard of discourse. Then the solutions will emerge.
I agree,
but
Richard,
we don't
if
have
you have
that
a
now.
conversation, you have to define terms. And I guess, in Andrew, this is one of those clear ones, okay? We saw a tragedy happen at a college at Virginia Tech. We saw a tragedy happen at a high school at Columbine. We've seen a tragedy happen at a grammar school, for crying out loud, with 6- and 7-year-olds here among the 26 dead. This is one, I haven't seen a poll taken on this, but I wouldn't be surprised if the plurality of this country supports it, even if they support, let's say, better enforcement, background checks, et cetera. Because you can put your arms around it. You can say, maybe it wouldn't have. but maybe it would have. Maybe a lot of those kids would be alive today if there was a guy with a gun that was a licensed practitioner and somebody that we'd agree would be right. And I think there's a fair debate about what the line is, but
I mean, this is sort of the way we react to all tragedies, all tragic events that happen. We immediately try to specify that particular area that was targeted and then fix it or try to fix it, and then not looking at the overall problem. It's a little bit like trying to stop the flu by making sure everybody's wearing a mask instead of trying to make sure that fewer people get the flu. I mean, you go from place to place.
And now, you know, you're not wrong, but analogize this to tobacco. There was a time in which tobacco smoking was accepted, approved of.
Cool.
And then there was a decision to change the conversation about it. Once that happened, you saw tobacco use fall, and it got more rational. Until we change the conversation, until the president gets his way, and we really talk to each other, even people we don't agree with, nothing's going to change.
Which is a critical part of the conversation, and it's something that I'd like to see and that I've pointed out. But the other thing to keep in mind is that tobacco is still legal in this country.
okay.
If you're an adult,
I get this 3 votes from you guys to no to armed security in schools. All right.
No.
We're going to keep the dialogue going online, make your opinion heard here. We jump to a quick break. When we come back, we've got a touching story for you, and it has everything to do with the holiday spirit. A nice break here from Fitz Cliffs and Guns. Stay with us. We'll be right back.